a great wind.
Highlands Ranch Mitigation Bank is located in Clay County, Florida, nestled at the confluence of the Camp Blanding Osceola Greenway and the proposed North Florida Timberlands and Watershed Reserve. This 1,575-acre site historically was a beautiful, lush wetland, the perfect habitat for an abundance of native Florida wildlife species, including white-tailed deer, the Florida black bear, Osceola turkey, gray fox, and gopher tortoise.
Highlands Ranch was acquired in February of 2008. There's been a series of timber management activities as well as wildlife management programs intended to enhance the overall nutrition for the animals that live on the property and bring the property back to a more of a natural state of ecology rather than the industrial pine plantations that have been going on here for the past 80 years or so. We've got a series of bridges on the property that were set up for timber trucks to be able to cross, and actually property was ditched in order to divert water from the wetlands in order to create more uplands. Goal of the road improvements is to bring the road elevations down to a lower level, which will allow the uphill water source to stage and flood some of those areas that have been drained due to the timber management practices of the past.
In the post-World War II industrial boom, it was artificially reforested into pine plantation. Workers drained the site and planted rows of slash pine and longleaf pine, which caused the native vegetation to wither. This drastically impacted the site's ecosystem and resulted in habitat fragmentation. North Florida species unique to this area were forced to find food and shelter elsewhere.
One of the most important things to wildlife is their ability to move around between habitats. People use roads, wild animals use the habitats. If you're a black bear, it's extremely important to have habitats just like here where we're sitting. They tend to move in these habitats, they feed in these habitats. If you're a Black Creek crayfish, this is a very important habitat for you in Northeast Florida. The Black Creek crayfish is only found in a few creeks and streams here in Duval and Clay County. But without this habitat, without high water quality and protection of the resources around it, you don't have those other species. Now, Jennings State Forest does connect to Camp Blanding, but that connection is actually very narrow, and it's only a creek bottom. This adds to that and makes that wider. Obviously, bears don't know where the fences are. They don't know where the state land is. This enhances what Jennings holds and connects to Camp Blanding, and this also enhances some other properties. And without filling in these key holes, your conservation land has a lot less value. So this is really adding to the existing value of Camp Blanding. It's adding to the existing value of Jennings State Forest. It's adding to the water management district lands that are just north of where we're sitting right now, and makes them all more valuable. They're a more connected ecosystem. That's real important for large tracts to be conserved, and those large tracts to be conserved in context with the properties around them. And that's basically what you get with a mitigation bank.
We have quite a diversity of animal species out here at Highlands Ranch. And unfortunately, we also have some of the undesirable species. One of the things that we do with our wildlife management is that we, for lack of a better term, eradicate some of those nuisance species such as coyotes and wild feral pigs. We do this through very controlled hunting practices.
Efforts to protect America's historic wetlands first began in 1972 with the Federal Water Pollution Control Act. This law established the precedent of wetland preservation through regulation. From that point on, development projects involving the alteration of wetlands required mitigation and the need for a permit.
Wetland mitigation banking is the practice of taking a degraded wetland and restoring it to a more natural condition. It is used to help private landowners, developers, governmental agencies offset wetland impacts on their projects. So if somebody has a project that's maybe 5 acres and they have a quarter acre of wetlands on that property that will ultimately be taken out through the development process, they need to offset those impacts somewhere else. We, Highlands Ranch, as a mitigation bank, provide wetland mitigation credits to allow that developer to impact those wetlands.
In March 2008, the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers changed its approach and began encouraging developers to refrain from on-site mitigation and instead to utilize the services of wetland mitigation banks.
So wetland mitigation banking is really a team effort. We work with a couple of different environmental agencies, and we are currently utilizing on-site environmental to help with our monitoring, follow up on our permitting process, our reporting to those agencies, making sure that we are properly tracking native species, nuisance species, we're handling those appropriately.
Two primary methods for measuring the vegetation out here. One is looking at ground cover and shrubby vegetation, and we use a square yard plot, 3 foot by 3 foot, and we basically determine the percent cover of all the species in that plot. And we're looking at everything from diversity when we analyze that data to appropriateness for the habitat. We're looking to see if there's any nuisance exotic vegetation or anything of that nature.
And this vine, this trailing vine, is yellow jessamine, which is Gelsemium sempervirens. That's about 15%.
When we do the belt transects, we're looking at tree cover, we're looking at percent cover, but using an area that size, we're also determining the tree density. We're determining the diversity of those trees, and that changes depending on what habitat you're in.
For Highlands Ranch Mitigation Bank, we are permitted through the St. Johns River Water Management District as well as the Army Corps of Engineers. So we can provide both federal and state mitigation bank credits, which is important depending on the project.
Mitigation banking is the best way of preserving the land that not only benefits the development industry, but the inhabitants of the land itself. For protected species such as the Florida black bear and the Sherman's fox squirrel, restoring this land to its historic wetland state is critical. These animals and many species like them depend upon a haven like this where they can nest and forage undisturbed by the effects of human development.